game that comes to a close. And Tinas, if you can pick out a player of the match from that contest.
Rory, it's so difficult. Tom Jordan there on screen had a fantastic game. He has really stepped up defensively and on the attack for Glasgow Warriors, but and Ryan's man of the match, that man, Jan-Hendrik Wessels, for the 70-odd minutes he played. What an effort by the loose head prop. He redefined loose head play. He was on the attack, he put little kicks forward, but that defensive effort, that cover tackle to deny Cancellieri's try in the first half, rightly deserved it. So his fundamentals were strong, but his all-round game was fantastic.
Do you know what, for me as well, he'll be looking at the big screen wondering why it's on him. Front rowers are certainly props, don't get them very often, do they? And it's usually for their scrummaging, but that's not why he's got it. Obviously that was one of the things, but like you said, defence, ball carries, kicking, he's got a bit of everything. And the Bulls, even though they let Glasgow in a little bit towards the end there, they certainly deserve that one. They've been a class outfit this evening.
Sweet revenge for the Vodacom Bulls. Not many teams, if any, come to Scotstoun and put on a display of dominance like that. They have done it, and just those two late tries from the Glasgow Warriors put some respectability on the scoreline and got their point. But the final score here at Scotstoun, Glasgow Warriors 19, rampaging Vodacom Bulls 26. Well, Tinas, how impressive from the Bulls, and we've now seen that 2 weeks in a row. That's to go to Thomond Park, the first South African team to win there, and now the first South African team to win at Scotstoun. This is building at a very, very good time of the season for the Bulls, who now head back to South Africa.
Yes, Rory, they're heading back to South Africa for their final two games at home in Pretoria. But confidence-wise, they can take an enormous amount out of these last two games. It's so hard to win in Munster, especially in those conditions. That was all built on the strong fundamentals, line-out scrum, and defensively. And then once again tonight, defensive effort, enormous by all these players. How many times there were line breaks, and the Bulls were working so hard to get back in position, get the numbers behind them, and they still built it on their strong fundamentals. That scrum, what a get out of jail free card. But that was a very impressive defensive display again by the Bulls.
There's still some big guns to come back. Billy Leroux coming back into this game just towards the end. Elric Lowe, Cameron Hanekom, Marcel Coetzee. It is a squad full of absolute quality, and we can now head down to Connie McLaughlin, who is with the Bulls skipper Ruan Norkia and the player of the match, Jan-Hendrik Wessels.
I am. I'm also with Mirren because it's Kids Week here in the URC. Mirren, you're going to do the honours and give Jan the medal. On you go. Oh, get over that hat. Well done, Mirren. Good job. Guys, congratulations. Well done. A really, really important. First and foremost, Jan, let me start with you. I can see the cuts and the blood. Everything we need to know about how difficult that was tonight.
Yeah, we obviously knew it's not going to be easy. So we came out fighting for each other, and I think we had a big win last week and just want to match it, and we just want to do the same thing this week, and the guys really stick together, and I think we just fought for each other, so it worked well for us.
Ruan, a little bit about the efforts of this guy. He was involved in everything tonight, so many important moments.
Yeah, I know, Flip, I think with a guy like Gerard Steenekamp that was out the last few weeks, I think Jan stepped and filled his shoes tremendously. It's awesome to know a guy like Jan can play hooker and on prop. It's a massive boost for us in our department.
We talked before the match about that need or maybe want for revenge after that last year, the final. Does it feel as if you've got something, a little bit of something back after that one tonight, and given the fact of potentially what this could do for your season?
Yeah, no, for us it's not about the revenge at all. Like I said before the match, Glasgow came to Loftus and they won us fair and square. And like I said, credit to them. I think they were outstanding in that final. And I think for us, coming here today was all about, just like Jan said, rectifying what we did last week and then coming into this game with the same intent. So yeah, I think so proud of the boys, especially on our fourth week on tour. It was really special to see how the guys stuck together, and it's a really massive boost for us for the last part of the season.
And the last part of the season, as well as the fact that you're now heading home tomorrow, Jan, what's needed for this final part to do something that's been missing for this group of players for such a long time?
I think it's this tour. We obviously knew it's going to be difficult. Having 2 knockout games in the EPCR and having 2 massive games, Munster and Glasgow away. So it's just, I think if we just can build on this momentum we have now, we have a week off now, so getting back together after that and just sticking to the last two matches, and in playoffs anything can happen. So yeah, we just want to fight hard and stay in it.
Congratulations, both of you. Safe home.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Well, that's a European tour that has seen the Vodacom Bulls win in France, in Ireland, and now in Scotland. And what will that do for their chances this season? Twice beaten finalists in the URC. They're desperate to go one better, and they're beginning to show the signs that they might just be able to. Is it a side, a squad, good enough to go to Dublin again, as they did in the semi-final a few years ago, a couple of years back, and win? Well, we shall see. There's enough Springbok experience in there. The concerns for Glasgow off the back of Leinster, then a pretty disappointing performance in Parma, albeit with a win, and then for really the majority of this game, or certainly in the second half when it really counted, outplayed at key moments, and that allowed the Bulls to develop a pretty lofty lead over them, an unassailable lead, and it was too little too late for the Warriors despite those late tries that were run in. And we can now go down pitch side because Ryan Wilson has picked up a few of the winning Bulls.
Thanks, Roy. I am down here with one of the winning Bulls. Mate, that one looked personal. I'll be honest. I know that Jake White tried to sort of sweep it under the carpet and say it's not personal. You know, we're coming here to get the points, but a little bit of that. The first 20 minutes was brutal.
Yeah, no, I don't think it was personal in the sense of revenge. I think it was more personal between the players. I think we owed something to ourselves and to each other. We've been a long time away from home. A lot of us have kids. It's an emotional week. The kids and the wives are missing us at the back home, so I think it's more that personal. The players just fought every minute for each other. I think that's our biggest motivation.
Michael, you mentioned being on the road. Obviously, last week, Munster, a huge win, and then this week, you must have talked about that in the huddle there, like going away on the road and doing this, and then to go back, you've got 2 games at home, set yourself up quite nicely to potentially, after your quarterfinal, get a home semi as well. Yeah,
so hopefully it goes well back home and we can get the home semi. Finals out of our hands, and then we'll see where to travel. But I think this gives us good confidence if we have to play away, semis or finals, or quarters. I think we can take a lot of learning out of this. It's massive games, and to get the wins, it's very.
When do you fly back? Do you fly back tomorrow?
Tomorrow, yeah.
So a chance for a brandy and coke tonight?
Definitely.
Hey, we're going
Scottish beer as well.
Some Scottish beer. Well, listen, I'm going to go and find a couple others. Congratulations. Safe journey home. I'm going to go for a little wander, find a few more. There's a few of the boys that are getting bashed up, but I know here's one I want to chase after. So come with me. This man, obviously, brother of Scotland star Duhan van der Merwe. I've got to talk to you, mate. You threw the ball up, and then it came down, and then you kicked it. I'm sure you meant to drop it on the foot.
That's why I play hooker, not in the back line. Zero kicking ability, but it actually worked off. So
who taught you it? Your brother?
Definitely not him because he can't kick as well.
I knew that was coming. Listen, you've had a few weeks over. Have you caught up with your brother since you've been here?
Yeah, unfortunately not enough, but one night, so it was special as well.
And I was just talking to a couple of other boys. Marco, I mentioned go out for a couple of brandy and cokes. He mentioned some Scottish beer as well. But you'll enjoy tonight before you head back because you've got a bit of a rest next week as well and get your feet up.
Yeah, we're off next week and we're definitely going to enjoy a couple of brandies tonight.
Well, enjoy Glasgow. I'll send you some places to go afterwards. Safe journey home.
Thank you.
Cheers. Go find one more. Thanks very much. We'll have a little wander. Will we find one more? Should we grab a Glasgow player? Tough old shift for George Horn. Let's grab him because he's become... Gogsy, I'll grab you. I know it's tough. Usually I'm here at Scotstoun talking to you after a win. But I spoke to a few of them. They said it wasn't personal, but the first 20 minutes, there were fireworks. The boys went in. I saw you using the old tactic of pulling the shirt over the head towards the end with the number 8, just instead of going for the legs.
You got to use every dirty tactic you can when you're match size against some of them. But like you said, both teams were flying in. It was a massively physical game, and yeah, fair play to them. They barred up in D and put in a lot of big shots, and yeah, managed to beat us, so fair play.
You've knocked up a few achievements over the last few weeks. One of them, I think you'll probably know it. I think it's 500 points you've just ticked over there.
Yeah.
Didn't know. You now. I know it's not about that, but another little one. You obviously, for me, you've got that 2 big games coming up. Yeah. You've got the home quarters cemented in. After what you boys did last year, I'm not writing off a home semi, but you can still chase it all the way down, can't you?
Yeah, well, it's going to be, I think we're still 1 point ahead of the Bulls, so look, massive 2 games coming up. We've got to go and do our best to win both them, and then we'll see what happens. But like you say, knockout rugby, we're guaranteed a quarter here at Scotstoun, and then anything can happen. So look, we're going to have to keep getting a lot better. We got shown tonight that, we're not as good as maybe some people think we are, or people have talked us up to be. So yeah, a lot of work to be done, but yeah, exciting going into the end of the year still.
Well, mate, go and get your feet up. I know you deserve a big old rest, a week off. We're going to send this one back to the guys over there in the studio.
Thanks very much, Ryan. Well, the Bulls have done what not many teams can do, and that's defeat the Glasgow Warriors at home. We'll have all the analysis and reaction after the break. We'll see you in a sec. There's lots to kind of get our heads around just from this Friday evening. What on earth is going to happen this weekend and for rounds 17 and 18? But let's chew the fat a little bit on what's happened here. That was such an interesting match indeed. First half, so tight, and then obviously the Bulls raced out to a big lead. Glasgow got a couple back, picked up a bonus point. Whew, what do we make of it?
Oh, what a game. The quality of rugby in the BKT URC is way up there.
Better than the Super 15.
Super who? That was test match intensity, especially in that first half. The quality of the Bulls' defence tonight, again, backing up last week's result in Munster, was immense. And we talk about the work rate of players getting back, working back once the break is there. On that scramble defence to get back in position, get their spacings and press again. Glasgow looked very dangerous at times. But that the Bulls' defence really put them under pressure, forced them to make those mistakes that they don't normally make because of that pressure that's been put on by the defensive line.
Yeah, what did you make of it, Ryan?
Exactly what you're saying. Like, so impressive. The defence from the Bulls is really what stood out. And yeah, Glasgow snuck a couple towards the end, and it was the quality of the way they went through it. But sometimes you can just switch off in the last 2 minutes of a game, thinking you've run away with it. And I put it down to a bit of that, but 5 more minutes in that game, Tinas, and we could have had something very, very different.
Could have been very special. And this is why Glasgow is the champion side. We said beforehand, Franco Smith wants to see the best of Glasgow. Those last 5 minutes, those were the shades of the quality of Glasgow. There was, of course, a little bit of disruptions. They were ahead by a lot of points, 14 points plus. There was a lot of changes being made, but the quality of those Glasgow attack, that is what makes Glasgow such a difficult team. Once they get the speed of ball, that speed of recycle, getting over the gain line, we saw those tries. Class.
We can't take away from the fact that it was a massive win for the Bulls, not only to win here at Scotstoun, to get their revenge, that's a word we've thrown out all afternoon, evening, but will they be disappointed to have conceded those 2 tries right in the final few minutes and equally concede a bonus point?
I want to ask Jake White, if we're going to get him in a minute, why didn't they take the 3 points at the end? Because that would have then taken it away. So I don't know whether the players had clocked it, whether or not they had. That's huge, because that can come right down to the wire at the end of the season, looking at that 1 bonus point and going,
should have just taken the 3 points and that would have taken it off Glasgow. So, yeah, I think there will be. I think they'll be massively disappointed in that. All the hard work that they did for 75 minutes and then to just let it sort of fall apart a little bit towards the end. Whether that was Glasgow's quality or they're just, switching off a little bit, starting to think of the brandy and cokes. We won't know, but
I'm pretty sure they're going to discuss that decision on a couple of beverages tonight. But I think that's the growth where this Bulls team just needs to grow a little bit further to really become a champion side. We saw last year in that final they were leading, then they gave it away. This is where they have to become a bit more ruthless. For 75 minutes, that was a ruthless display. The physicality, the basic fundamentals in the scrum and the line out, every contact, they drove Glasgow Warriors back. For that 5 minutes, they switched off and Glasgow's quality shone through. And that's where, as a team, they have to grow and just get a bit more of that ruthlessness.
Well, let's remind ourselves of the two Bulls tries in that second half. Incidentally, Glasgow were three tries to 2 and still lost. But this was the dominance, this was the physicality that we were talking about. And then for them to get on the board in the second half and extend that lead a little bit, so important.
Yeah, and they wore the Glasgow defence down in that first half. You could see a lot of Glasgow players taking a little bit longer to get off their feet, struggling with a bit of injuries. This was a very well worked attacking more. Glasgow initially doing really well to get the bodies behind, push it towards the touchline. Grobler recognises the threat of going outside, and then the two backs. Of course, the backs will claim this try. Creel, Kane and Moody. They know their position. They know what they need to do. This is where the Bulls have grown as a team. They're anticipating that. They're close by and they latch on and drive Johan Grobler over.
Yeah, and David Creel as well, getting that second try. That was just as important because Husinov off the tee was kicking so well. He was converting everything. He had 4 penalties through the post as well. This was a lovely little nudge.
Yeah, and for me, you talked about that defence just wearing Glasgow down. They didn't really know where to go on this. So finally they lose a little bit of structure and Tom Jordan tries to put the crossfield in. It was a shot to nothing. There wasn't really anything on and Bulls just snapped that one up. And we spoke about it. We said Glasgow, when they get that ball in the 22, just knock it down the field, try and chase after it. Well, the Bulls do exactly that, and they get a bit of fortune there with a bounce, and off they go.
Yeah, and I credited the defensive effort. Multiple phases by Glasgow on attack. They were put back. They ran out of options. They went for the kick pass. And this is the backs playing heads-up rugby and reacting on that turnover. But that came from that very, very impressive, patient defensive effort.
Well, I'm delighted to see joining us in the studio, Jake White. Thank you very much. Congratulations. That was one heck of a contest out there, and you've done something that not many teams can do, is beat the Glasgow Warriors on their home turf. So how would you rate that 80 minutes of rugby out there?
76 minutes of rugby was outstanding.
Yes.
Probably 4 minutes of
I was
that
starting positive, Jake. Come on now.
Yeah. I just say, when you're a coach, you wanted to finish them off. To be fair, we had some chances as well. I heard now all the commentary you were giving there, but a couple of times we had a 5-metre line-outs and probably pulled the wrong play. Tina summed it up. I think the way we defended. This is an incredible attacking team, Glasgow. And you saw when they get it right how difficult it is to stop them. Literally, we knew when we kicked that last kick off deep that they were going to run it from there, and they still scored. So, all credit to the fact that we defended like we did, because when they do hold on to the ball, they're very difficult to keep out.
Certainly.
And Hendrik Wessels, what have you been doing to him? Where has he come from? Because that is just, what a performance. Yeah. Especially wearing that jersey as well.
Well, he's now called Oosterrand in the change room. That's what they're calling him now. But he's always been a phenomenal talent. He was played lock in standard 9, which is the second last year in high school, then moved to prop in his final year, and then he's played hooker for us as well. So he's got everything.
He epitomised almost the work rate just in that first moment when he got back. Sebastian Kinsiliari just going over to score a try. We watched his work rate back up there.
Yeah, from that scrum.
And he's just
outside the
belted
22.
across. Yeah. But you saw that in everything. Even, I know you talked about the last 5 minutes, but 70-odd minutes, you've got, Nokia just working back, trying to fight.
Yeah.
there was a bit of desperation, a bit of fight there tonight.
It's interesting, Ron, because I'll say the two things that, which was interesting for me is the loosehead prop stops a try, and I think Nokia, who moved from lock to flank, was outstanding. I mean, he wasn't, he's an unsung hero, because every time they chipped it over, every time he was there, I mean, even the scrambling back when he put them under pressure to make a decision on their last pass, I mean, it was because of the fact that he was there.
Is the work off the ball something that you were working on in training, specifically when playing a side like Glasgow, who do like to play expansive rugby, who do play quickly?
Yeah, I wouldn't say. I mean, I want to now take credit and say we work off the ball. I think we just knew that Glasgow can hold on to it for many, many phases, and sometimes it works because if you slip a tackle or two like we did at the end there, then they can score. And I mean, they're not champions for nothing. I mean, they've beaten good sides. They play a style of rugby that suits their ground that they train on. I mean, both Scottish teams play on 4G pitches, so obviously the style they play helps them because they can play with a very quick tempo, and therefore you've got to be, you've got to get guys like Jan-Hendrik Wessels and Nokia running around, doubling up actions, tripling up actions. Otherwise, they open you up. So I wouldn't say we're off the ball, but we realise that if we don't stay on our feet and we don't get numbers in the line, we're going to end up getting opened up on the edges.
Talking about off the ball, was there something you watched against that Leinster match where Glasgow really got undone? Because I know you like to kick the ball a lot and then work without it, but your defence tonight had a certain pressure, a certain press about it that someone like Moody was just going after everything. And until that second to last try, you guys didn't get undone at all.
Yeah, look, I mean, having Moody there is obviously a secret weapon as well, because he doesn't mind tackling and he doesn't mind shooting out of the line, and his reads on hitting people in those positions is the right read, So having him there has obviously helped us. But, again, I've got to say, I mean, Glasgow can attack. I mean, they can attack. And if you get it wrong, I mean, that's sounds crazy, because we sit in the change room now. We've won a game. We've won 2 in a row. Munster champions 2 years ago, Glasgow. Some of the boys feel a little bit let down because the last 5 minutes feels like we sort of let it slip.
And that's actually one of the things that I mentioned. I think for the growth of this Bulls team, that ruthlessness, and rightly so, they can be disappointed with this last 5 minutes. And that's probably that bit in terms of the growth of the Bulls as a unit, as a team, is getting that ruthlessness to play that full 85 minutes.
Tennis, I mean, it's not an excuse, but you've played at this level like Ryan has. I put another hooker on the bench as a back rower because Marcel pulled out. Put a young 20-year-old lock on today for his first cap.
Who's a giant, by the way.
Yeah, he's a massive man, And
put a Superman cape on him, he doesn't look out of place in the movie.
But can you imagine him? His first game is Glasgow Warriors, URC champions away, and you're under the pump because they come running at you every time. So, again, it's not an excuse. We need to be ruthless, and we need to, if we want to win big competitions, we're going to have to finish off like we started. But again, there's a bit of leniency as a coach, because I also appreciate that the eyes were wide open when that last couple of minutes was on top of them.
I don't want to tarnish it, and I'm not being negative, but why didn't the boys take the penalty at the end to take away that bonus point?
Because Glasgow are good enough to, if it hits the pole, to counter-attack and run the whole length of the field and score.
Okay, I'll take that one as a truth answer.
Is that the message you passed on?
Yeah, obviously you think, should you take the point and then, take a point away from them? But, God forbid the ball hits the pole, they counter-attack, you give a penalty away for maybe, a high tackle, next thing in your 22, you end up drawing the game, so...
That would be disastrous.
And that's respect to Glasgow, because the reality is we've got a massive amount of respect for them. It wasn't a case of giving no point, it was a case of taking the win. Like you said, massive win because of the fact where we are now and where we are in the context of the competition. So we couldn't get arrogant and say, listen, let's take the point away, and the next thing it comes back to bite us.
Indeed. Well, look, we'll let you head off. Congratulations. Enjoy your last night of your little tour in Glasgow, and safe travels home. All the best for round 17 and 18.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Thanks very much, Jake.
Thanks, sir. Thank you.
Safe journey.
Well, great to get his thoughts, actually, and very measured in his thinking there, and as we expected, don't you think?
Yeah, and very mature, to admit that they recognise, the threat that Glasgow do bring, and, you risk taking a point away being negative, and then it gets, and bites you in the backside. So, ultimate respect by the team and recognising under pressure where the strengths and the weaknesses of the opposing team is.
Indeed. Okay, well, time to get some Glasgow reaction. Connie McLaughlin is speaking to Franco Smith.
Franco, where do we start with that one tonight? Maybe at the start, it's unusual that Glasgow start a game not necessarily, quite as agile or at the races as we've seen in the past, maybe?
No, I disagree there. I think This is URC rugby. We've played against people that lost the final last year. They're motivated for this. Yes, we have a bunch of players there that hasn't played last week, and we still, like I said before the game, we're just building everybody back into it. We're focused on what our game needs, so that was the focus. And they made 80 tackles more than we did. Yes, we made some uncommon errors. I think maybe the kick into the corner would have changed things for us if that didn't go out, because we just gave away points after that. But again, it's things that we can rectify. And no, compliments to the Bulls tonight. You could see the desire to win.
What was the biggest frustration for you tonight?
Yeah, I think just unnecessary errors. We turned the ball over too many times, too many penalties, scrum time. You must compliment the Bulls scrum. The whole season they've got the team that gets the most scrum for the most penalties. They've beaten Leinster like that. The only team that's beaten Leinster was in that position in the 80th minute. So they are a really good scrum team. They've got some big human beings and they apply them well at the moment. So yeah, I think too many penalties scrum time, and I think 1 or 2 errors that we could have managed better. But I'm still proud. I thought the boys kept on fighting. We are Warriors, and this is only the 5th game we lose this season. After we've played so many finals, every game, like I said before, the teams that we face try and play their final. They beat the Warriors and they've beat the previous finalists and winners. So yeah, again, we've got a lot of injuries, injured people coming back soon, and excited to see what the future holds.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Too many penalties conceded, that's for sure. I think that's the message. And Houston was so great off the boot as well. He didn't miss one.
No, he was. That's what Johan Goosen is known for. He's so accurate off the tee, and he can do it from 50, 55 plus. So you don't want to concede those penalties, because in the back of your head it'd always be Goosen could get the 3 points. And I think that's what they did really well in the first half. Going in at 9-6, taking their opportunities. It was hard to come by points in the first half. They had, only had 30-odd% possession and territory. So crucially for them to take those points when it's on to offer.
Yes, here are the crucial penalties that Glasgow conceded. 4 penalties. It's a lot of points, given the fact that Glasgow actually scored more tries than the Bulls today.
I think for me, what was stark is Glasgow played all the rugby in the first half. They played so much rugby, they almost ran themselves out of gas, and it was like there was a tactic there for the Bulls, because they let them play. You said it, they weren't kicking the ball out, they were keeping it in, they were giving it to the back 3. Glasgow were just enticed into running it back and playing as much rugby. They were out on their feet, and then suddenly the second half came and the Bulls just snapped into life and started playing with the ball. But like you said, this man, Goosen here, just knocking over penalties to just take the wind out of them every time they made a little mistake. And when you're attacking with all that possession and you're not going anywhere, and then suddenly you're getting punished for 3 points, it takes the wind out of your sails. And then it was that 20 minutes after half time that they really twisted the screw and they went after them. They said, right, okay, we've done what we wanted to do in the first half, and now we're going to go after you. And they played some unbelievable rugby. We talked about the defence, but really they could cut Glasgow open when they wanted to.
Yeah, they decided when to do it. They could see the Glasgow defenders were starting to tire, they were starting to hurt, and they took their opportunities. But Franco, in his final words there, talking about the game and everything else, there's a lot of players, quality Glasgow players, still missing and coming back. So looking at the next 2 weeks and then the playoffs, there's some quality coming back into the squad.
Yeah, there's a fair few of them.
Yeah, certainly. And injuries, I'm sure, is something that Franco Smith will be worrying about. Certainly a few Glasgow players going off today. But this weekend, elsewhere in the URC, it's an all-Welsh clash. Ospreys take on the Dragons. That's tomorrow at 2:30 p.m. on Premier Sports 1. Then it's Scarlets versus Tabletoppers Leinster. That's tomorrow at 5:10 p.m. on Premier Sports 2. Then it's Ulsters versus Sharks tomorrow at 7:15 p.m. also on Premier Sports 2. In the Copa del Rey final, it is Barcelona versus Real Madrid. Then in the top 14, Bordeaux take on La Rochelle. Challenge Cup semi-final, Edinburgh up against Bath next Saturday, and then Champions Cup semi-final, Leinster versus Northampton next Saturday also. Okay, well, it's been great to have your company. Vodacom Bulls defeated Glasgow Warriors. The race to the 8 still continues. A very goodbye from us.